"Hold on," said John Riker, his voice steady but uneasy. "That's not what really happened, not according to the reports." The air inside the studio shifted. Viewers couldn't see it, but those who were there swore they felt the weight, a kind of silence that only comes before something big. Riker, a man known for blending curiosity with controversy, had paused mid-episode of his nightly show The Frequency. He leaned toward the mic, eyes narrowing behind the studio lights. "Something's off about this story," he murmured. "Too many details don't fit." That line, quiet, deliberate, almost accidental, set off an earthquake online. Clips of it flooded every corner of the internet within hours. People replayed it, slowed it down, analyzed his tone like it held a secret. Because when John Riker said something didn't add up, people listened. But this wasn't his usual territory. It wasn't politics, fame, or scandal. It was about a man named Caleb Knox, a rising figure in youth leadership, known for his fiery speeches about conviction and freedom. Just weeks earlier, he had stood on stage before thousands, preaching clarity in a confused world. Now he was gone. According to early reports, the tragedy struck during a student event in Utah Valley. Witnesses described confusion, shouts, the sound of something metallic clattering to the floor. Officials claimed an arrest had been made, though they released few details. The supposed weapon, an antique rifle, drew immediate skepticism. Too rare, too cinematic. The story sounded staged, like someone had written it for a film. And then came the first footage. A few shaky camera clips leaked online, showing Caleb collapsing mid-sentence. The crowd froze. Security swarmed the stage. The frame cut to black before anything else could be seen. In the following hours, rumors multiplied faster than facts. One local outlet reported that the suspect had confessed, then been charged for something unrelated. Another claimed the evidence didn't match the official account. Even the timeline seemed fractured, pieces missing, numbers misaligned, voices contradicting each other. When The Frequency went live that night, Riker's co-host, media analyst Dana Wells, sat across from him with a look that said what both were thinking. "This doesn't make sense." "You can feel it," she whispered between segments. "They're not telling the full story." Riker didn't answer right away. He stared at the screen showing looping footage of Caleb's final moments, the blurred chaos, the unanswered questions, and finally said, "When a story starts closing its own doors, that's when you know something inside needs to stay hidden." Viewers caught their breath. Social media lit up again. Hashtags trended, threads multiplied, and suddenly the nation was watching. What began as tragedy had started to look like something far stranger. By the end of that night, The Frequency had sparked a storm it couldn't contain. Theories collided, motives surfaced, and one haunting thought lingered. Maybe the truth wasn't gone at all, maybe it was being managed. For 3 days, the nation spoke louder than the woman who had lost everything. Clara West, Caleb Knox's wife, hadn't said a word. Cameras lingered outside her estate, reporters whispered about her absence, and every hour another headline asked the same question: why isn't she talking? In a world that feeds on statements, silence felt unnatural. People expected tears, a press release, maybe even a televised memorial. Instead, there was nothing. No interviews, no messages. Just that single, haunting image of her standing at the edge of the funeral crowd, motionless, eyes hidden behind black lenses. Dana Wells, co-host of The Frequency, replayed that image on her tablet. "You can tell," she muttered. "She's not just mourning, she's calculating." John Riker didn't answer. He was watching a feed of local coverage, police briefings that contradicted themselves, interviews edited mid-sentence, timestamps that didn't match. Something wasn't lining up. "Everyone's talking except the one person who could confirm the truth," he finally said. "That's not coincidence." Online, the story began mutating. Some viewers claimed Clara was being silenced by powerful interests. Others insisted she was part of the plan. A photo of her leaving a courthouse, likely weeks old, went viral with captions suggesting hidden trials and sealed evidence. Within hours, the image became a symbol. The widow who wouldn't speak had become a voice for everyone who distrusted what they were told. Across podcasts, blogs, and late-night comment threads, speculation hardened into narrative. A movement formed, loosely organized, emotionally charged, built on a hunger for what wasn't being said. The hashtags shifted from Justice for Caleb to Let Her Speak. Then something strange happened. At 2:13 a.m. on a Sunday morning, the frequency's email inbox received an unmarked message. No name, no signature, just an attached audio file labeled Segment 13, WAV. When Riker played it, the sound was raw, static, muffled voices, the unmistakable echo of a press microphone. Through the distortion, one phrase cut clear. They want her quiet until the next drop. The message vanished from the server minutes later. The IP trace led nowhere. That week, Clara appeared publicly for the first time since the tragedy. Not on national television, not in an interview, but at a small community center in her hometown. She stood before a crowd of fewer than 50 people. No bodyguards, no teleprompter. Her words were measured, each one like a stone dropped into still water. "You're asking for answers," she said, "but maybe the real question is why they're still giving you the wrong ones." And then she walked away. The footage hit the internet before midnight. The frequency broke down every frame on their next broadcast. Riker paused at her final line, replayed it twice, then leaned toward the mic and said quietly, "She's not running from the truth, she's warning us that it's already been edited." The silence, it turned out, hadn't been emptiness at all. It had been strategy. The first leak didn't arrive with a bang. It slipped quietly through the seams of the internet, buried in a late-night forum post titled, "They Changed the Transcript." The document attached seemed ordinary, a press release draft, incomplete and watermarked. But beneath the surface, a few lines had been digitally altered. The timestamp was wrong. The officer's statement didn't match the footage from that day. And most notably, the name of the arresting deputy, the one who supposedly caught the shooter, had been replaced with someone who didn't exist. At first, the upload drew little attention. Then the frequency mentioned it. Riker didn't claim it was real. He didn't have to. He just asked one question on air. If they're rewriting the paperwork, what else are they editing? Within hours, everything changed. Social media threads exploded. Independent journalists began scouring public databases. Anonymous accounts shared fragments of internal files, some clearly fabricated, others disturbingly authentic. Hashtags multiplied again. The Knox files edit the truth, hash open the tape. But the movement wasn't just digital. Across cities, small gatherings began forming: college halls, public squares, old church basements, people comparing screenshots, analyzing recordings, trying to make sense of the noise. Some called it a citizen investigation. Others called it chaos disguised as curiosity. And at the center of it all stood Clara West. Her silence was now a rallying cry. Her brief speech had been turned into a slogan printed on shirts, painted across protest signs. "They're giving you the wrong ones." Every image of her became symbolic: the quiet defiance, the distant stare, the refusal to explain. The story no longer belonged to the media. It belonged to the crowd. Riker watched it all unfold from the studio, his show now drawing millions each night. Sponsors pulled back, claiming brand risk. Commentators accused him of fueling hysteria, but he didn't back down. If anything, the doubt made him dig deeper. Then came the second leak. A video file dropped anonymously on a peer-to-peer server. Low resolution, timestamped 2 days after the incident. The clip showed a quiet office, fluorescent lights, gray walls, a table with files stacked high. A man's voice, off camera, whispered, "It's cleaner if she never speaks again." The clip cut abruptly. No faces, no proof, Just that one line enough to ignite an inferno. News networks dismissed it as a deepfake. Government officials denied it existed. But the movement didn't care. They shared, mirrored, subtitled, and dissected it until it became its own kind of truth. By the week's end, rallies had turned into marches. Cities pulsed with the chant, "Let her speak." Riker's final broadcast that Friday ended differently. He looked straight into the camera, eyes dim but defiant. "We used to think truth was about evidence," he said. "Now it's about who uploads faster." The studio lights flickered. The feed cut to black. The night of the final broadcast felt different. No intro music, no headlines, no sponsor ads, just a static hum filling the airwaves as John Riker leaned into the microphone alone. The studio lights were dimmed, casting long shadows against the glass. The producers had gone home early. Only a red ON airbulb glowed in the corner, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Tonight," Riker began, voice low, "we're not talking about what happened. We're talking about what's still happening." He paused, letting the silence settle in. Then, with deliberate calm, he clicked a file open on his screen, segment 14. WAV. It was the third anonymous recording in as many weeks, sent through an encrypted channel. At first there was nothing but static, then a woman's voice, faint but firm. "The story isn't finished. It was never supposed to be finished." Listeners would later describe the sound as haunting, like a message from somewhere between memory and confession. Riker leaned back, exhaled, and said, "They tried to bury the truth under paperwork and press releases. But the thing about silence is, it doesn't erase the noise, it collects it." Across the country, thousands tuned in. Comment threads scrolled faster than they could be read. Some demanded proof. Others swore they recognized the voice, Clara West. Then mid-broadcast, the feed flickered. Twice. The signal cut for 3 seconds, replaced by a gray screen and a single phrase typed across it. "This transmission is no longer authorized." When the video returned, Riker wasn't sitting. He was standing, gripping the edge of the table. "They do like when silence starts speaking," he said, almost to himself. "That's how you know it's real." Within an hour, the frequency stream was taken down from every major platform. The archives vanished. Clips re-uploaded by fans disappeared just as quickly. It was as if the show had never existed. But silence has a strange way of echoing. Days later, snippets of that final broadcast resurfaced, low-quality audio, broken fragments of Riker's closing words stitched together by listeners across the world. One clip, only 12 seconds long, carried his final sentence intact. "Truth doesn't die when people stop talking. It dies when no one dares to listen." No one saw John Riker again after that night. Some said he went underground. Others claimed he was silenced or that he chose exile over compromise. Officially, the frequency was listed as on hiatus. Unofficially, it had become legend. And as for Clara West, she never returned to the public eye. But every few months, a strange signal still appeared across private networks, a flicker of static, a single tone, and a whisper. "They're still giving you the wrong ones." Whether it was real or just the ghosts of a story too big to contain, no one could say. What mattered was the echo, proof that even silence, in the right frequency, can still make the world tremble. Don't let the signal die here. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and keep the frequency alive. Every day, we dig deeper into the stories they say are finished, the ones that still whisper beneath the noise.